Welcome to my video on 5 pieces of advice that I wish I knew for mini painting. If you're an avid miniature painter or just starting out, you've probably experienced the frustration of not getting the perfect paint job on your models. But don't worry, we've all been there. In this video, I'll be sharing with you some valuable tips and tricks that I wish I knew when I first started painting miniatures. These simple pieces of advice will help you to achieve the mindset and approach to take when painting miniatures, rather than just focus on technical ability. While having good technical skills is important, it's also important to have the right mindset and approach to your miniature painting projects. This can help you overcome challenges and achieve better results. We'll be talking about the importance of practicing and experimenting and how to keep an open mind and be willing to try new things. By following these pieces of advice, you'll be able to improve your miniature painting skills and achieve the results that you want. The first reason, and the one that everyone should know by now, is thinning your paints. Just thin your paints. Just thin your goddamn paints. A little bit of water, a little bit of medium, just thin your paints. That's all you need to do. Thin them. Thin them, please. Thank you. But why do we thin them? Well, firstly, the main reason that we thin them is to make them easier to work with. It eliminates the risk of getting brush strokes all over your miniature model, which is the last thing you want because it's going to mess with the finish at the end of the project. It's going to clog up detail and make it look less good. Less good. Also, and specifically when working with acrylic paints, which is 99% of you, thinning your paints adds a bit of transparency onto your paint job. This allows you to layer it on top a lot better so it blends with the colours underneath it. This helps you get smoother, nicer transitions on your models, and that's what we all want at the end of the day. The second piece of advice that I wish I had when I started off miniature painting is get a 3D printer. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, 3D printers are very expensive, and that is true. But what I'd like you to do is make yourself a cost to benefit analysis on having a 3D printer. Me personally, I started off the hobby painting Warhammer. When I was just a young lad, 3D printers, they were things we saw in sci-fi movies. As I got back into the hobby, years and years on, I would spend a lot of money on Games Workshop kits to a point where I realised one month, hey, if I just stopped buying Warhammer for a month or two, I could afford a 3D printer. So I did, and I bought the original Elegoo Mars, and that just changed my life from that point on. I'm now the proud owner of 3 3D printers. I've got an Elegoo Mars, the original Elegoo Saturn, and an Elegoo Neptune 2, which doesn't see as much love because I've never really managed to get my head around FDM printing, but that is something I'd like to revisit. But looking back on it now, getting a 3D printer has absolutely revolutionised this hobby for me personally. Not only has it saved me money in the long run, but also on top of that, it's opened up a whole new world of stuff that I didn't think I'd even paint to begin with. Again, I started off this hobby just painting Warhammer as something fun. Never played a game of it. I just enjoyed collecting and painting. Now I've found that I love painting busts. I love painting great big mythical creatures, stuff that I never even would have dreamed Games Workshop to come out with. And also I found I love painting masks. That's my favourite. That's my baby, that. But my point is that if you're spending lots and lots of money on Warhammer kits every single month, it might be worth investing into a 3D printer. If you're inclined that way, you can 3D print your own Warhammer, but the direction I went from there was that I just found a whole new myriad of models and cool things that I just enjoy painting. The third point for me is that there's no such thing as cheating in this hobby. I am a means to an end kind of a guy when it comes to miniature painting. I know there's people out there that say, oh, Agrex Earthshades, cheating in a bottle. Some people might view it that way, but you can get some great results just using Agrex Earthshade on your model. And if you're a brand new miniature painting, that's a great place to start in getting a quick, effective paint job. I've seen people complain that using an airbrush is miniature cheating. Some people see it that way. I see it as a way to get a better effect onto a model. Again, there's no such thing as cheating. At the end of the day, we are making these things out of passion and love, and all we want is to just show off our final results. How we got there doesn't particularly matter. Another important kind of point that I'm trying to make here is that every single kind of cheating method that's out there. You know, whether it's using Agrax Earthshade, whether it's using an airbrush, it's all about adding another tool into your miniature painting arsenal. The more tools you have, the more kind of tasks that you'll be able to tackle on your model. It's just important to remember that there is no correct way to painting a miniature. I've seen an ultramarine space marine painted in 10 different ways, and they all look fantastic at the end of the day. All using different techniques, all using different ways of doing it. It's all about finding what works for you. Next up is don't be afraid to look for feedback. I'm in several Facebook groups. I jump onto the miniature painting subreddit quite often. I browse around the Warhammer painting subreddit. And you know what? The miniature painting community is one of the most welcoming communities that I've ever seen when it comes to new people. Don't be afraid to look for feedback. There's a lot of experienced people out there that are quite happy to give you some constructive criticism. I can't say I've ever actually seen someone be a about a new miniature painter's paint job. So don't be afraid to share your work on there. Don't be afraid to ask, what can I do next? What can I do to make it better? Hell, share it with me. I'd love to see new miniature painters work as well, and I love to give them feedback and say, all right, cool, yeah, you've done this well, you've done that well. Here's someone. My baby just fell off the wall. It's fixable, but I think we might have to print another and paint it again at some point. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. My point being, again, if you're a new miniature painter, I'd love to see your work. I'd love to be able to give you some feedback as well. You can share it with me. My Instagram's in my about page. And yeah, don't be afraid to share your work. Don't be afraid to look for feedback. On the flip side, I also think it's very important to build your confidence as a mini painter. What do I mean when I talk about confidence? I'm not talking about puff your chest out, straighten your back kind of confidence. I'm talking about confidence in your ability to do stuff to your model. Not that kind of stuff. So what do I mean by that? I approach this in every single project. I will look at something that either I haven't done in a while, something that I feel like I need to personally improve on, and that will kind of be the focal point of my project. You might have seen my last two sets of live streams. I've been painting Reconnect and I've been painting Bax, the Changeling. For those two projects, I went into them and thought to myself, I've not painted fair skin tones in a while, like soft, smooth skin. So that was my goal. And I went into it. And at one point with Bax, I nearly ruined the model. But we brought it back. And actually, it's probably one of the proudest paint jobs that I've made to date. And this is what I mean about confidence, is going in and saying, right, this is what I want to focus on this project. It could be non-metallic metal, it could be painting skin, it could be contrast with the colours that you use. It could be using a colour palette that you're not familiar with. But it's all about being confident to go into a project and say, this is what I want to focus on and this is what I want to get better. And for the final point, I wanted to bring up something I heard it earlier in the week, and it's from a very popular paint YouTuber called Vince Ventrilla. I was listening to one of his podcasts, and he said something that's resonated with me ever since. It's actually inspired me to make this video, and that is the difference between a bad mini painter and a good mini painter is that a good mini painter knows how to fix his mistakes. Mistakes are an inevitable part of the painting process, and it's how we approach them that makes us a bad mini painter or a good mini painter. I know in the past I've made mistakes on models and then I've pretty much abandoned the project completely. That's what a bad mini painter does. A good mini painter looks at that mistake and thinks, how do I fix it? They try again and they keep trying and they keep trying to fix it until it looks right. And ultimately, that's how you become a good mini painter. All you have to do is just not get down whenever you make a mistake, because it will happen and it happens all the time. And overall, being able to recognise when you've made a mistake and when to correct it, that is ultimately what separates the wheat from the chaff. It's something that all mini painters should strive for, to improve their own mini painting process. And that about does it for the video. Went for a bit of a different format, so let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of it? I'll be continuing doing the paint and streams as usual. I do have a bit of a plan for a minor content change video, and that'll be coming out sometime next week. But yeah, let me know how you thought. Have a wonderful evening, and goodbye.